Welcome, ladies. Welcome back to Module 6. This is Marlis Hübner. I really want to congratulate you today because you made it halfway through the program, which is a huge success. You should be celebrating. I am for sure super proud of you that you've come that far, and I'm very confident in you that you will continue with more strengths and even more passion on your way to uniting career and family life. Today, I want to talk about the number one resource that is most valuable to all of us. The resource that we all wish we would have more of, and the resource we struggle with the most at the same time, right? As we very often don't know how to utilize it at its best. And this resource is, of course, time. We all know it just too well. The feeling of having too much to do and too little time to do it all. Experts actually call it time famine. In the world of never-ending busyness, we starve for time more than ever. And in fact, if you ask people what they would like to have more of, 90% will tell you that they want more time. Not necessarily more money, but really more time. We all wish we had more time, and especially working moms are heavily affected by the hunger for more time. It is the number one stressor for working moms because we feel responsible for everyone and everything on our to-do list and keep telling ourselves just, this one more thing to get through. Yet the feeling never goes away, and there's always one more thing that is left and that needs to be taken care of. We never pause. We always push through and compromise, we compromise on sleep, with our own health by not exercising enough or, not even eating healthily enough because we always put ourselves last. And so this is why I want to spend a good amount of well-invested time this week on how to break through that cycle and really show you how you can take care of the things that really truly matter to you. The point is, we do all have the same amount of time available, right? So if you look at time per week, not per day, but if you look at time per week, you have 168 hours. And if you think about time in a weekly chunks, 168 hours is actually a lot you can do with. So my goal for you this week is for you to realize that you can move from time starvation to time abundance with the right tools in place. You will eliminate or at least reduce to a minimum those things that drain your energy and that you really don't like doing. Fill up your schedule with those things that boost your energy and that you want to do more of. And I'm going to show you how. I am extremely passionate about this module because cracking your time challenges is a huge stress reliever for all working moms. And I've put a lot of thought into this and have pulled together for you only those strategies that I found to be most efficient for working moms. I have tested out quite a few myself, and what you will find here is hopefully also, the creme de la creme for you guys. This week, we will take a closer look at the time tracker that you have hopefully completed by now. It was part of Module 2. We will take a closer look at how you currently evaluate your time and where your time basically goes. I will also introduce you to the time budget quadrant, which is a framework I've developed to specifically get clarity on your energy boosters and energy drainers. I will also take you through the 9 golden time mantras for working moms that I want you to apply moving forward, and I want you to apply every time you feel you are not on top of your time schedule. This will also help you to develop your dream time schedule in which you will ensure room for the stuff that is truly important to you and that truly matters to you. I also want to make very clear that I'm not following the principle of making time for it all. The point of this module is that there is always enough time for the stuff that really matters to you. And I challenge you to rethink what really matters to you and what doesn't, and how you spend your time. What are the things you can let go of so that you can focus on only those things that get you closer to your goals? And now is really the time to care doing that. If you are like most working moms, I can tell you, you're going to wish for more time for all kinds of stuff, right? Most likely for, more time with your kids, more time for yourself. That is actually the one I hear the most often. I wish I had more time to take better care of myself. But also even, working moms wish for more time for their partner. The most often heard complaints that I get about time are really, I do not have enough time to get everything done. My whole life is one big to-do list, or, things like I don't have time to do it all, or there is never enough time. I'm always running from one thing to the next, right? Does that sound familiar? So of course you're going to run from one thing to the next if you are trying to find the time to do it all. Again, as I said, that's not the principle I'm going to take you through in this module, and it's not the principle you should be living by. So why is it that we know what is important to us? We know that family is important to us, yet we fail to prioritize it first most of the times. So what I've learned is that most women actually feel they can't really choose over the time. They feel they have to do all those things. They feel they have to be there for their kids, ideally all the time. They feel they have to take care of everything that's on the agenda, whether it is at work or at home. These women try to avoid asking the question, what do I really want to do with the time that I have and the time that has been given to me? Because it is just simply easier to be busy. Remember, you are, playing to the brain's default mode, and you're actually doing it a favor of doing what it is used to do, and it got into the habit of doing. So that's why it's time now to start caring and start taking back control over your schedule. It's time to break free from your default mode that most of us spend our times in. And before we take a closer look on how to do that, I want to clear out a few misconceptions that I've been hearing over and over from working moms. And I'm going to be very honest with you because I feel very strongly about these and truly believe that they provide huge barriers to the success of uniting career and family life. So watch out for these very carefully and find out where do you identify with them today so you can take the actions and the steps it takes to eliminate them. The first one is There is too much to do and too little time to accomplish it all. I understand that being busy has become the norm and it feels weird if we are not busy, especially at work. We even adopt this pattern at home. We are in busy mode all day long. It almost feels like there's something wrong with us if we are not busy. But here's the thing, if you are really clear on your priorities, you will see that there is not too much to do, as you will be able to reduce time on your non priorities and stop being busy with those. The second misconception is probably the most common one that I hear from working moms. Working part-time will allow me to have more time for my family. Trust me, I think this was definitely one of my biggest beliefs as well. But here's the thing, if you're not spending the time the way you want to today, you are most likely not going to change that in the future. You are just going to keep yourself busy as you are doing it today. And again, I used to firmly believe in this. I've tried working part-time several times and never succeeded because at the end of the day at work, yes, I cut back on hours, but I never really actually cut back on the amount of work. I thought I would use all this extra time to look better after myself and spend more time with my kids, but reality proved that I was just busy again taking care of gazillion other things. And why is that? Because back then, just, having more time with no strategy at hand does not mean you are going to do what you really want to do. It's almost like an illusion. The third conception is I have to take care of all this. Again, I want you to know that putting yourself last does not mean that you are taking better care of those that matter. If you constantly deplete your emotional and physical bank account, you will not be of any good use to anyone. So get clear on what is really holding you back from taking time for yourself, and I challenge you to think beyond, well, I just don't have time for this. Why do you put yourself last? Why do you think that it is your responsibility to take care of all this? Is it because that's the way it's always been? That's what society expects you to do? That's what our mom label is? Make sure you understand your own limitations, because once you have identified them, we can replace them with new thought models that help you break free from I have to take care of all of this, no one else will do. Another misconception is that many working moms believe they cannot choose how they spend their time. So let me ask you this. If you do not control what is going on during the day, how are you planning to control your life? Only you can decide how you spend your time. In fact, everything you are doing today is already a choice that you have made, even if it doesn't feel like it to you. The choices you make determine, at the end of the day, the quality of your time. And another last misconception is that moms strive for more work-life balance. I need more work-life balance. As you've most likely already heard from me, is that trying to find work-life balance was the biggest disappointment for me, because balance is not a destination, like happiness isn't either. It is a feeling that comes from within you based on how your thoughts are aligned with your behavior and actions. You can find balance in how you spend your time. It is not that work is the bad thing that you need to balance out with good things that only happen outside of your work life. The key to achieving true balance within yourself is to do more of the things that bring you energy, whether it is at work or at home, and less of those that rob you of your energy. Spend some time on going through these misconceptions in your workbook and get crystal clear which ones have guided your life so far. I really want you to break free from these, as they are true barriers to uniting your career and family life. Okay, so let's get a little bit practical. Let's dive into evaluating your time tracker and take a closer look at what your current status quo on time is. You have hopefully tracked your time successfully by now for a week. If for any reason you have not managed to complete your time tracker, I want you to go and do that first before you continue with the exercises in this module. But if you have completed it, let's take a closer look at the different buckets of time. Sleep is the bucket that should take up most of your 168 hours per week. Ideally, you get 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night, which would add up to a total of 49 to 56 hours per week. The second biggest bucket is most likely work for you if you are working full time. And let's assume you work a standard 40-hour week and sleep 8 hours every night. You would still have 72 hours left for all the other buckets in your life. And, even if you include travel time to work, and, this is a little bit less for some of you. Some of you, even commute up to 1 hour, and some have actually heard they even commute up to 2 hours. So, but let's assume, if you commute 1 hour each way to work for 5 days a week, that would add up to 10 hours, but would still leave you with 62 hours left for other stuff in your life. 62 hours. That is way more than the 40 hours you were working. Some of you probably think right now, okay, I get it, but I really work more than 40 hours. And I totally understand that. I've been there. I used to work, between 50 and 60 hours. But here's the thing. I fundamentally believe that no one needs to work more than the hours you have contracted with. Again, if you have the right tools in place, you can cut down from 50 to 40 hours. And we will touch base on how to do that next week in your Craft Your Career module. For now, let's look at the other buckets that make up your remaining 62 hours, or even more if your commute to work is shorter. There should be buckets of personal care in your time tracker, which are, things like brushing your teeth, taking a shower. There should be a bucket of, meal preparation, or maybe even going out for dinner. You should also have clarity on how much time you spend on shopping, whether it is for grocery or any other items. You should have a household bucket, which is usually another big chunk for most of us. And that includes all the things like laundry, cleaning the dishes, cleaning the house, or, any maintenance stuff you have to do around the house, or even gardening. And then also all the things and activities around your kids, like homework, taking them to classes, taking them to, doctor's appointments or play dates. And hopefully you also had some buckets of quality time in there, quality time with your kids, your family in general, your husband, and frankly, yourself. So the assignment for this week will be to get clear on how much time do you actually spend for each of these buckets. And, get clear on what are the things that make you happy and what are the things that don't make you happy. Know what you love doing and what you don't, because remember, at the end of the day, time is the bucket in which we empty our emotions. The more positive and energizing emotions we can empty into a given time bucket, the greater satisfaction we will experience, the greater balance we will feel within ourselves, and the more happy we will be. So we are going to follow the equation of energy management to achieve true balance or true alignment within yourself, so you can feel stop being rushed all day long and exhausted at the end of the day. To get full clarity on what depletes or boosts your energy, I want to introduce you to the principle of time budget. Time, like money, is a resource we should use wisely, yet very often we don't know how to do it. And we don't know what that means. So we kind of spend our time with very little awareness and just using our gut feeling. That's why I want to introduce you to the concept of time budget, which uses the 4 principles of saving, spending, wasting, and investing in time. Like we save money, we save time. Like we spend money, we spend time. And like we waste money, we also waste our time. And like we invest in money, we should be investing in time. The items that fall into the bucket of saving time, I called the negotiables. And I will explain in a bit what I mean by that. The items that I want to spend more time on are those that are important. And the items that I'm wasting my time on, I called the unimportant. And the things I really want to invest in more time are my non-negotiables. There are things we simply have to do, and there are things that we don't want to do and that we don't have to do. And then there are other things, we want to do. So if we look at the quadrant through the lens of what do I have versus what do I want to do, or what do I not have to do and I don't want to do, here is what it looks like. Your negotiables are those things that you don't want to do, but you feel you have to. So for example, this could be any household chores for you. Like I can tell you, I really don't like ironing laundry, but I really don't mind doing my laundry. In fact, I'm super obsessed with my laundry and it's totally fine for me to do it. But ironing is something I just can't stand. So that would be going into my negotiable bucket. Your unimportants are the things that, again, you don't want to do, but you also don't have to do them. And this could be things like, watching too much TV or spending too much time surfing the web. What you need to know is that your don't want to's are always the things that are going to cost you energy, because they are the things that are not in alignment with your thinking and feeling. And so those are the things that are going to make you feel out of balance. When you move to the right side of the quadrant, you will find your importance on the top right corner, which are the things that you have to do and ideally also want to do. So this could be sleep, like we all have to sleep. We all have to eat, and hopefully you want to eat as well. Or, raising your children. Your non-negotiables are really those items that you want to do, the things that bring you the greatest pleasure and joy, but you don't necessarily have to do them. And so what happens is that we usually cut time out, or take, we usually take time from our non-negotiables and spend too much time on the left side of the quadrant. Because the stuff that is in the non-negotiable bucket is really things, like exercising, going on vacation, doing your yoga, going out with your friends, having a spouse conference, or having a date night out with your husband. Whatever it is on the right side of the quadrant, really those are the things that you have to know. Those are the things that will bring you energy. And the goal will be for you this week to identify your items on the left side of the quadrant and move as much time from the left side to the right side of the quadrant. So identify your negotiables and non-negotiables and your importance and unimportance. You really want to minimize the time spent on the left side of the quadrant as much as possible. So how can you do that? So first, identify what goes into each quadrant. And once you know where you can shift time from, you can reallocate that time from the unimportant to the important, and from your negotiables to your non-negotiables. Once you have identified your unimportant items or the time wasters, I want you to think of ways of how to eliminate them completely or reduce them to a minimum where you still enjoy doing them and you don't feel like they are dictating you and they've taken overhand. If you identify many of these in your current time tracker, reallocate the time to the important stuff and choose how you spend your time in that bucket by leveraging your unique strengths and values. So this bucket is really all about how do you spend the time? And if it is stuff that you have to do, what attitude do you need to have in order to want doing this stuff? And focusing on your strength, your unique strength and your unique values will enable you to live out the important stuff in a way that is natural to you and in a way that brings you energy. Okay, so for your negotiables, I really want you to think how you can save time by delegating some of these tasks or even outsourcing them completely. Again, shift time that you have freed up from your negotiables to your non-negotiables, and then make sure you prioritize and invest in these first. Let me finish on the time budget quadrant with an example of myself. I have listed here my negotiables and non-negotiables, the importance and the unimportance. Now, this is a simplified overview and doesn't contain all my buckets, but it hopefully gives you a good understanding of what a time budget quadrant could look like for you. So let's start with the negotiables. The things that I really do not like to do, but I know I have to do, are household chores like cleaning and ironing or washing the dishes. The solutions I've put in place to save me time in this quadrant are that I invested in a cleaner who comes on a bi-weekly basis and saves me about 4 hours of cleaning per week. And I think the best thing I've actually done is I got myself one of these iRobot vacuum cleaners, that, little robot thing that circles around in your house, and I just love it. It's the best investment I've ever made in my household. I have also set clear arrangements with my husband on who is doing what with the other household chores. So I have also learned, to delegate work items that I don't necessarily like doing, and I know that someone else is so much more capable of doing and actually loves doing them. And then you also have to be very honest with yourself and admit that there are some kids' activities you just don't want to be part of. You don't like them. And I can tell you, it's for me, it's my son's soccer matches. Him and I, we do other stuff together that we both like. So I would, take him to Taekwondo almost every time he has a class, simply because I enjoy watching him doing Taekwondo over him doing soccer. In my important quadrant, I have sleep. I'm a person who needs at least 8 hours of sleep every night, and I make it a priority of my own to ensure I get that in as often as possible. I also love to cook for my family, and since it is something we have to do anyway, I am sure I have dedicated time to do that, and it doesn't become a last minute rush thing. The biggest shift, however, that I've made is truly stopping doing things that are in my waste quadrant. A few years back, our evening routine was to watch TV after the kids were in bed. And it was because, I collapsed after an exhausting day at work on the couch every night. And it felt like the only thing I was still capable of doing after that tiring day. But the truth is, I never really liked it. Now, not that I don't like watching TV, and I'm not saying you should, cut out TV of your life, but just get really clear on, do you really enjoy it as many times as you actually do it? Or do you just go to it because, again, it's your default mode and you haven't actually replaced that activity with something you would prefer to do instead? I'm also very watchful about my time that I spend on my phone and the internet in general and social media in particular. I have stopped using these tools just per default. If I use them, I am very intentional about them, and I only visit them with a very specific purpose in mind. And I think, the piece where I've actually freed up most of my time is by learning to say no to many social commitments on weekends. I love spending time with people, and if it was just me, I'd be probably socializing all day, all weekend long. But in the context of being a career mom, I've actually realized that it's not doing me any good. So, being very conscious of who you spend your time with, how often you do it, will enable you to, reinvest that time in what truly matters to you. For me, that is, for example, to ensure that I have 30 minutes of time for myself, for example, in the morning, where I use the FAST framework that you have learned about in the previous modules. And, in my invest quadrant, there are really my non-negotiables, and I make them my non-negotiables. I don't compromise on these times anymore. And so yoga, for example, is absolutely non-negotiable for me, as is, daily time with my kids and spouse, where I actively listen to them and engage with them. And I make an effort to do that. And of course, I make time for coaching and you guys, which I absolutely love doing, and, love having that connection with you. It just gives me so much. And then, of course, I love to travel the world, and it's me, in our family, he always ensures that we go on vacation on a regular basis. So I hope this gives you an idea of what your time budget quadrant could look like. It could be completely different things for you, and that is totally fine. Again, the key is for you to identify what matters the most to you and what doesn't. So listen inwards to yourself and, breathe in a big portion of honesty, because sometimes it takes that bit of honesty and courage to admit the stuff that you really don't want to do. Because most of the times it means that you have to say no to someone. And I know that can be very scary. I mean, those are the things that make us feel very guilty. So let the curtain of fear drop for now. Don't label your desires. We can work it out in our coaching sessions, on what is holding you back from achieving the things. But for now, please just really focus on what you don't want to do and what you want to do, regardless of what it takes to get there. Don't label what it takes to get there. Okay, so now let's move on to the exciting part of this module, in which we are going to create your Dreamtime schedule. Yay! The purpose of this Dreamtime schedule is to get you out of time starvation and right into the feeling of time abundance, so you never feel short of time or stressed by time again. With that, I want to introduce you to the 9 golden rules, or what I like to call the 9 golden time mantras for career moms. Remember, the goal is to reallocate as many of your 168 hours to the right side of the quadrant. And the 9 golden time mantras will guide you on how to do that. Again, we are going to look at the principles of spending, investing, and saving time. Since we don't want to waste time, this becomes irrelevant for us to implement in our Dreamtime schedule. You can find the time mantras for your convenience to download from the membership site. Print them out and carry them along with some of the other useful tools that you already have. So, spending time. For spending time, I want you to follow these principles. I focus my time on my goals. In order to maintain your energy, it is very important that most of your time is spent on the things that bring you closer to your goals, to the goals that you have previously identified. I will fill my time only with stuff that matters to me. Again, anything that is not relevant to you does not deserve a spot on your schedule. And lastly, for spending time, I choose how I spend my time. I am in charge of how I spend my time. And again, yes, there are certain things that you have to do, but the key is that you can always choose how you do those things. You can choose to do those things in a way that you are in charge and that you in fact can choose. You choose the attitude you take to approach these things. So focus on what you do best and you will get to the most time satisfaction. Investing in time. The important comes first. Again, get very clear on what is truly important to you. I probably can't say this enough, and really ensure that time is dedicated on your schedule first. I invest time in myself, my kids, and my spouse. Chunk out times for yourself and your Dreamtime schedule for your children and for your spouse, where you are fully present and give them your undivided attention. You can, for example, follow the 30-30-30 rule, which means you can assign 30 minutes to each one per day. 30 minutes of quality time for your kids, 30 minutes of quality time with your husband, and 30 minutes of quality time with yourself. My husband and I used to have spouse conferences scheduled in our calendars. We don't do that anymore. Well, we still do them. We don't have them scheduled anymore because we really just got so much into the habit of making sure that we connect at least for 30 minutes every day, whether it is face-to-face or if one of us is traveling, then it's definitely on the phone. Also tell yourself, I focus on one thing at a time. As moms, we like to be excellent multitaskers, but please stop doing that if you are one of those. It will save you time and get you better results with greater satisfaction and less frustration if you start doing one thing at a time. Multitasking does not save you time. If anything, you keep your brain busy with constantly switching between different tasks, which is actually very energy draining. So let's move to saving time. I want you to tell yourself, I stopped trying to do it all. Budget your time like you budget your money, and you will be doing this following the steps in the workbook and leveraging the time budget quadrant. You cannot afford to do it all. No one can afford to do it all. So you don't have to feel bad about it. I say no to the things that do not matter. Before you say yes, ask yourself, how does this bring me closer to my goal? Does this really matter to me? I know for some of you, this is going to be very hard, so just keep practicing. The more clarity you have on what matters to you and where you want to go, the easier it will be for you to say no to things that are not in alignment with your needs and goals. And finally, tell yourself, I let go of the unwanted and delegate. Stop doing stuff you have to do but you really do not like doing. Invest money in order to save time on the unwanted stuff and collect big returns from more important stuff. Using these principles and having identified the buckets of your time quadrant, I want you to list the things that you truly want to stop doing, that you can delegate or outsource, and the things you want to invest more time in. Also get clear on what arrangements do you need to make to achieve that. What help do you need? What tools or support do you need that will enable you to achieve better time satisfaction? Again, don't label your needs for now. Just write down what it would take. If you need a cleaner, don't think I can't afford this. Just do the due diligence of what the cost for a cleaner would be for now, and we can work on how to get there in our finance module. Okay, so let's move to our final assignment for this week, which will be all about prioritizing all the items from the time budget quadrant. So I want you to organize your non-negotiables and importance by priority, assuming, they are either of high to mid priority to you. Prioritize your negotiables and importance first. Take a close look at how much time you spend on each of these items today and how much time you would like to ideally spend on them. So for example, when I was going through my own time tracker, I found out that I only slept 6 hours. So if you have something similar and you find out you only sleep 6 hours per night, but really what you need is at least 7 hours of sleep, your gap would be 1 hour per day and a total of 7 hours per week. So what arrangements do you need to make to get in that 1 extra hour per day? Identify all your gaps, and if there are too many gaps, don't worry, don't get overwhelmed. Again, take a step back and prioritize them by importance and really only focus on closing one gap at a time. Once you have closed the gap and found the routine, come back to your priority list and move on to the second gap that needs to be closed. Take it one step at a time to avoid overwhelm, but just please make sure you go back to all your other gaps that need to be closed. Think about where you can shift time from the unwanted to the wanted side of your quadrant and what it takes to enable those shifts. Get clear on what it takes to close your gaps and make sure you have all the tools and help in place. And then, go ahead and download a blank Dreamtime schedule template from the membership site and start filling it in with the high priority items first and the least priority items last. I want you to think about this as putting it in chunks of time. For your career and work-related items, we are going to take a closer look next week. on how you can apply the same principles to ensure you do more of the energy boosting things also at work. And doing more of those things that actually get you closer towards your career goals. I also want to mention that filling out your dream time schedule is not a one-time exercise only. I want you to think of it as a living document that needs to adapt to the changes that life brings upon us. Our work schedules change, our kids' schedules change, so it is pretty normal that we will have to adapt and adjust. Make it a habit to revisit your Dreamtime schedule whenever you feel things are getting out of control or you feel frustrated and overwhelmed. The important is to always follow these principles that I've outlined here for you today. The principles of the time budget quadrant and applying the golden time mantras. Because with that, you will always ensure that your energy boosters come first and take up most of your 168 hours per week. So this brings us to the end of Module 6. Let's recap on your checklist for this week. As always, complete the workbook, evaluate your time status quo using your completed time tracker, do your time budget quadrant, and familiarize yourself with the 9 golden time mantras and repeat them as often as possible so they really stick in your mind and become a habit you can rely on to every time you need them to make time for you. Identify your gaps and what it takes to close them. And last but not least, start creating your dream time schedule and keep updating it as you move along through the next modules and, even long after that as well. And then one other thing I really want to mention, and that is very close to my heart, please erase the sentence, "I do not have time," from your mind. Every time you use that sentence, you are disempowering yourself. It is just going to make you feel bad for most likely unnecessary reasons. Practice saying instead, "This is not a priority for me right now." And it might sound a little bit awkward to you right now, but just really memorize that sentence. "This is not a priority for me right now." You will feel so much more powerful. It is a much more uplifting sentence that puts you, back into control. As always, I'm leaving you with a quote today from Thomas Edison. He believed that time is really the only capital that any human being has and the only thing he can't afford to lose. I could not agree more to that, and I hope you do too. As working moms, we really cannot afford to lose any time that is precious to us and that will not come back. So make sure you spend, invest, and save time in the best possible way for you, applying the principles that I've outlined to you today. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I know this has been a lot, but as I said at the beginning, I think this is a very important resource, if not the most important resource that we have, and it really deserves all my attention for you. I will speak to you next week. As always, embrace and enjoy and have fun with the assignments. Thank you very much.